In this video, we're going to talk about Virtualenv and Virtualenv Wrapper. Virtualenv is an amazing tool that you can use in the command line to be able to set up virtual environments for doing your Python development. All you have to do is you have to activate a new virtual environment, and then anytime you install a new Python package, it goes into that virtual environment, and then you just deactivate it, and it's as if it never existed. So this helps you keep projects separate and those installable third-party libraries in separate locations so you don't have a lot of cross-contamination. To get started and demonstrate this, the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure we have setup tools installed. If you don't, then you need to use your system's installer to set up setup tools for Python. Generally, you probably have this installed already, and you can easily tell if you try to run the easy install command. In this case, we're going to do sudo easy install pip because we're going to install pip, which is a tool that we use for installing Python packages. It's a little bit nicer to use than easy install because you can actually uninstall packages. Easy install only lets you install Python packages. It doesn't let you remove them. So once we have pip installed at our system level, this means we have pip available outside of any of our virtual environments. So since that's installed, let's go ahead and install Virtualenv and Virtualenv Wrapper. So we do pip install Virtualenv and Virtualenv Wrapper, which means we're installing two Python packages next to each other at the system level. So this is going to go through and do its setup process. It's very simple, very fast. And now we're ready to get started. So the difference between Virtualenv and Virtualenv Wrapper is Wrapper does exactly like it sounds. It gives you a set of helpful tools and helpful things to allow you to use a virtual environment in a much easier manner. The first thing that we need to do is something Virtualenv Wrapper specific is we need to set a work on home. In this case, we're going to set the ems folder, and that's at the root of our home directory. This is also something that you'll want to go ahead and set in, say, bash rc or bash profile. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the location of virtualenv wrapper.sh, which is something that you need to source every time you load shell. And you can find the location by doing which. In this case, we're going to use user local bin virtualenv wrapper.sh, and then now we're going to source it. This line as well, you need to put in your bash rc or bash profile. That way it activates Virtualenv Wrapper every time you start up. Finally, we're ready to actually get started. You can use the make virtualenv command, which is actually a Virtualenv Wrapper command that wraps a little more complicated way of creating a virtual environment using the straight virtualenv command. In this case, we're naming it Django 1.8 because we're going to mainly focus on doing Django development. And as you can see, it quickly creates the environment and puts setup tools and pip inside of it. It also goes ahead and activates it. That's something that you have to do with every single virtual environment. You have to activate and deactivate it. If you'll also look, we'll do which Python, and it shows that in our ems Django 1.8 bin Python, that's the actual location of the Python that we're using. This is kind of interesting because you can actually change the Python potentially that you're using in this virtual environment if you want to get some custom configuration going. You can see the virtualenv was created if we'll ls the ems folder, and you'll see Django 1.8. So that kind of shows you that it actually created a folder and there's stuff inside of that folder. Next, we want to install Django, and we're specifically going to install Django 1.8. And once that's installed, we can do a Django admin.py version, and we see that we have version 1.8 of Django. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and create another virtual environment and install Django 1.7. So if we'll do make virtualenv Django 1.7, you'll see it goes ahead and creates the project. And if you'll notice, we're in the Django 1.7 virtual environment now and not the 1.8. One of the another great things about Virtualenv Wrapper is it automatically deactivated the Django 1.8 and put you into the Django 1.7 virtual environment. An issue that you could have run, that you can run into, is if you try to activate two virtual environments manually, you can actually override one another and start causing some very interesting conflicts. Using Virtualenv Wrapper commands, which is all I'm showing you here, automatically takes care of you not accidentally activating two environments. So if we'll do our Django admin version, you'll see it doesn't work because we haven't actually installed Django yet. If we'll install Django 1.7, and go ahead and run our version command, you'll see we're in Django 1.7. So let's say we're tired of working with our virtual environment. All we have to do is just simply type in deactivate, and poof, it's gone. We're no longer using it. And then let's say we want to work on Django 1.8. We just use the work on command with Django 1.8, and it will activate our Django 1.8 virtual environment. And then if you simply want to switch from Django 1.8 over to Django 1.7, if you'll use that work on command with work on Django 1.7, it'll automatically flip over to 1.7 while deactivating the Django 1.8 environment. And that's really all there is to using Virtualenv and Virtualenv Wrapper. Using these two tools should make your life a lot easier when dealing with Django and switching back and forth between Django projects. I know I can have anywhere from 30 to 50 different Django projects, from actual full-fledged applications to little test scripts, and every single one of them have a custom Virtualenv for them so that I don't cross-contaminate my Python dependencies. So with that, I suggest you check it out and use it and add it to your tools.